Welcome to Haugen Racing, guys. Today we're looking at some Japanese drifting. Starting out with some street drifting, maybe a little toge mixed in, and of course we have Gaijin, the Japanese chin here. This is obviously his favorite type of drifting. This looks like we got a 180 in the front. I didn't see what this car was that he's in. This is so sick. Oh my god, this is so sketch. Just like in the city and oh my god, those guys sitting on the side of the corner. What's sick about this is they're actually like tandeming. This is like definitely the dopest kind of street drifting if they're actually tandeming. Not that I necessarily encourage it, but it is dope. What do you think, buddy? Gaijin's just happy we're watching some Japanese drifting. Look at him, he's actually watching it. Ooh, that was a sick entry. Oh, almost. That's the thing I gotta say about like Japanese drifting. Even like, I don't know who these drivers are, but I'm just gonna assume that they're probably like more grassroots drivers, right? And they're just jamming out in the street. But look how like aggressive they are with their entries and throttle and getting to a high rate of angle early on. I feel like that's something that's kind of ingrained in the drifting culture in Japan, and since they're learning from other Japanese drifters, it kind of keeps getting passed on. Whereas in America and even Australia is kind of like a hybrid of Japan and the US, but a lot of times I feel like you'll see guys that have a little bit more horsepower like early on, and they start relying on like handbrake, and they're not doing as fat of entries, and it kind of leads to like a lazy driving style. Not to say that they can't fix it, but I just find watching, like, if you take just a random assortment of American driving videos and a random assortment of Japan driving videos, the Japanese drivers, in my opinion, will be a lot more aggressive, even at the same skill level, side to side. And I think that is just kind of cultural and depending on who you're learning from, right? But it's fun to watch and it's good for you. Ooh! Oh, you hit it just a little bit. Ah, that was no good. Gaijin's like, god dang it, that was a nice car. All right, so we got D1 GP from this past year. Two of the boys going at it. Vertex versus Pink Style. This is sick too, and it's in the rain. This is another place where I personally believe separates the general mass, and I'm gonna explain why. So what I'm trying to say is they're drifting in rain, and generally, guys who learn drifting in Japan or places that have rain are better at drifting in rain, right? Think like Fredrik Osbo in Norway. It rains more there, so he's used to it. And he's a great drifter in the rain. A lot of Japanese drivers, they encounter rain all the time, randomly, because it rains more in Japan than most places here in the US. And especially at the tracks where they're at and the tracks they compete on. Whereas in the US, we do get rain randomly in Formula Drift, but I'll find that a lot of drivers don't have as much experience driving in rain because we don't have the opportunity to do it as much. So it's not that they're necessarily far better drivers, it's just that they get more opportunity to drift in rain. And so for me, whenever it rains, I freaking love it. And I want to practice all I can because it's definitely a different skill. It's a different style of drifting, especially when you're in like a high horsepower, high gripped up car, because suddenly you have like 10,000 horsepower and you don't have the grip you had, and it's really, really valuable experience.
Especially in Arizona, it rains like what, 3 times a year?
Yeah, so like every opportunity I get, and it's not in Arizona, I take advantage of it. Like we were out at Grid Life a couple years back and it was raining and I was in the Laurel, like a lot of people were stopping. I didn't stop the entire time. I was just like nonstop. And so this is obviously top-notch D1 GP drivers, but something to look at is kind of how they all come flying down the straight, they flick it to a high right angle as fast as they can, and then they're immediately to like basically full lock, and they're smooth with their steering and they're on throttle early. And those are things that you guys can even try or start trying at home as you kind of get to a more intermediate and advanced level, is start trying to push yourself. Stop relying on handbrake. You know, add more of a feint entry. Don't do clutch kick. And watch how smooth their steering is too. So like they either snap to a rate angle, or if the corner isn't really built for that. They'll like grow into that rate of angle and then they'll hold it. And that's like super, super proper. Okay, so now we're out at Nikko circuit looking at some Grassroots drifting. So I just wanted to kind of see that versus obviously top level D1 GP drifting versus street drifting, which is a different animal in its own. That's sick, little A86. Guys, comment below if I should get an A86. I want one so badly. I've always wanted to build one. There's like a bunch of them and they're all sick. God. So something like, again, like watch their entries and watch their smoke lines. So you can tell when they get on throttle, when they're kind of flicking, all that stuff. Even with these like really low horsepower cars, then is where it really counts too. You can't get away with a handbrake, you know, long sweeping handbrake empty and dumping the clutch and getting on power. You really need to use that like inertia and speed of the car to go flying through the corner and be on throttle really early to maintain a drift on a corner like that, because that's a fairly large corner for a low horsepower car. Honestly, one of the best things you guys can do for your drifting and your driving is, well, one, watch all of our how to drift videos, and then two, and I didn't do this, so this is speaking from like not experience, but speaking from talking to other people and actually realizing it now, is go watch other videos. Don't just stick to just Japan drifting. Go watch, oh, what the heck going on? Don't stick to just Japan drifting. Go watch videos from all over the world, all sorts of different drivers, and you'll learn different things from each one, and you'll start grasping more of the concepts. And then when you're able to compare them to like how to drift videos and things like that, ooh, that was sketch. You can start kind of learning, you know, what's good, what's not so good, and kind of what to look for. And then you can review your own driving footage and kind of fix it. And especially if you're on VR or sim racing, sim drifting, or even just Xbox, like you can do the same thing. All these same things apply. It's the same thing. We're all drifting. All the techniques are the same, honestly. You're just doing it in a different way. So it all applies. But I never did that. And honestly, looking back, I kind of wish I would have done some of that. Watched a little bit more. There's a lot of, even if you're watching like Grassroots stuff and guys aren't, you know, all that great, you can learn see what they're doing wrong. Start figuring out what, you know, isn't good and what's right. All right, guys, I could keep watching this all day long. This is so much fun. I love watching like all sorts of drifting and just hanging out with you guys. So if you guys enjoyed this video, comment below, let us know, and hit that subscribe button. Check out all the other videos. Like I said, we sim drift, and we have a bunch of how to drift videos. So go check all those out, and we'll see you guys in like a day. We're uploading 5 times a week now, so we'll see you guys tomorrow probably. All right, peace.